Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Laughing Place In Depth. This week, let me just introduce myself. My name is Rebecca Mosley, and I'm the co-founder of laughingplace.com. And with me is the CEO here at Laughing Place, Benji Breitbart. Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm excited about today's topic because, to be honest, I haven't really wrapped my head around all of it very well yet. So I'm eager for you to help guide us through. And that is, we're going to talk about some of these reorganizational announcements and some of the kind of what the results we've seen already from this, unfortunately, in terms of people being let go and things like that. So this week we're going to talk about the reorganization. I'll let you kind of start us off.
Yeah. So, originally we intended to talk about the holidays and all the fun coming from Disney this year. But with the big news, there's a lot of news coming out this week. And so if I was, ahead of the investor conference, which will be much more optimistic, hopefully,
right.
Take a look at what we can gain from the changes Disney had just in the last week and what that means for Disney moving forward. Now, before we get too far into it, I want to acknowledge that anytime someone's laid off or reorg, there's a personal story there, and you feel for that person because it's not only just a job for many people working for the Walt Disney Company, whether it's ESPN or Disney or ABC. That's a lifelong dream. Many people who had long careers find themselves without a position, but we're going to talk in a business sense, which is unfortunately very impersonal, but interesting nonetheless. So there's four things that kind of happened that I want to kind of look at what's going on through this lens. Layoffs of general entertainment content, one group, and ESPN. The closure of Radio Disney and Radio Disney Country, Dan Silver departing Disney Plus, and Dan Le Batard leaving ESPN. This all comes after, in early October, Disney announced this reorganization. And just to kind of go through it again, Disney split content creation from distribution. So it used to be ABC would make content and then deal with stuff like ad sales and getting it on, distributing it and having people figure out what satellite it goes to and all those things. That's all split up now. So all the logistics and operational functions now fall under what's called Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution, run by Kareem Daniel over here. Whereas the studios are really focused on making stuff, making shows, and focusing purely on the content itself. So, for example, ABC used to create a schedule. Now, the group that used to be called Walt Disney Television is now called General Entertainment Content, which they got to come up with a better name because that's just terrible. But they're not going to schedule it. They're going to make it. And then the media and distribution people will figure out where it goes on the schedule. Now, obviously, we're moving into a world where schedules don't matter as much as they used to, unless it's sports and news. But they're just going to make shows. And I don't want to say just because it makes it sound like that's not what they really want to do, but that's what it's purely a creative enterprise. And if you take it from the studio side, they're not going to be dealing with relationships with theaters. The El Capitan isn't part of their group anymore. It's going to be making stuff, maybe some marketing and sort of big picture stuff. But all the logistics of selling it and giving it to you somehow is going to be part of somebody else.
Ben, is this a good point for you to give us a little bit of an introduction into who Kareem Daniel is and kind of how he came into this place, or would that fit better?
Well, sure. The Kareem Daniel is Bob Chapek's buddy. He's followed Bob Chapek across from consumer products, studios, to he was president of WDI, kind of working with Bob Weiss. He's always kind of followed Bob Chapek. So it's hard to find here's what he's known for, because he's usually in a job for a couple of years and then Bob Chapek moves him to something else. Most recently, he was in charge of games, publishing, and consumer products.
Okay.
Sort of the part of Disney Parks Experience and Products that's not legacy, what you used to be called like Parks and Resorts, everything else. So he's been with the company a while, and Bob Chapek really relied, sort of his Padawan. And he in addition to being head of that, he was also Bob Chapek's chief of staff, which is a general term for like helper. So it was weird because he was reporting to Josh D'Amaro while also reporting to Bob Chapek. So
Okay.
I think we all, you had to everyone knows that Bob Chapek loves him. And I don't mean that in a derided content. He
I understand.
obviously has performed because Bob Chapek's all about that. But he's definitely sort of the Frank Wells to Michael Eisner in this relationship. But when we're talking about how they're reorging, it's trying to create something that's platform agnostic. So when they make a movie, in the old system, the studios would make more money, essentially, be judged on how it did in theaters, right? And then they would sort of sell it on through. But now the idea is they shouldn't have to care if it's in theaters or on Disney Plus or on Disney Channel or wherever it ends up. Because they're not going to be making any money. They're just going to make the content. All the profit and loss on the financial statement is all going to fall under Disney Media Entertainment Distribution. So there's two groups that make money: parks, experiences, and products, and this other group. TV, which is now general cinema content, and studios, they're not going to make money. They're just going to make stuff.
Very different way of thinking.
It's a very different way of thinking. And I think we're all kind of headed on this path, but with the theatrical push that there is no theatrical right now,
right,
it sort of became inevitable. And I think about how did they come up with this idea? Well, don't forget, Bob Chapek and Kareem Daniel came from Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products, where you have this exact structure. WDI, Walt Disney Imagineering, makes no money. They just make stuff. And then they sell it, essentially, to the parks or, cruise line or whatever else. And then they run it. They handle HR stuff, the cast that run it. They market it. They do everything else. Someone that works at Disney World isn't going to go to Imagineering and be like, hey, this should be blue instead of green. They're just going to say, no, okay, this is, and it's obviously a partnership. Sometimes the parts say, hey, we need to revitalize Disney's Hollywood Studios. What are your ideas? And sometimes Imagineering will be like, oh, I have this totally great idea for a new attraction. Where should we do with it? Like, it's not, it's not like there's no dialogue. But this is very different from where they came from on the TV side, where because networks weren't able to make their own shows by law for a long time. Mm-hmm. The studio would make it, then the network would go like, oh no, we want to have this actor in it, or we think it should be like this. And so you'd always hear, if you watch Bolt, Mindy from the network, it's always this like other person that comes in and kind of poops on your show. It's kind of the thing. But now the network isn't going to have creative input. And
so Doobie popped up with this question: Who determines under this model? Who determines the budget? Would it be the producer, the distributor, and then he said at parks?
Much like WDI, Disney Media Entertainment Distribution will actually determine the budget. But just like the park said, hey, can you be Galaxy's Edge on $37.18? They're going to say no. So they work together on creating the budget, but the money will come from DMED. So,
and DMED is short for
Disney Media Entertainment Distribution.
Okay.
Which we're going to have to say because there's no way I'm saying that. Like
no, that's good. I just wanted to make sure I knew at the forefront whether.
Yeah, and it's it's really. There was some feedback when Disney Plus launched that Disney Plus was getting a little too in the weeds with what they were making. And as you get into the more of a franchise environment where Lucasfilm and Marvel are making shows, they don't want someone from Disney Plus telling them what to do. There's not, they're used to working within their group. So then to say, okay, now for this set of projects, you're going to tell me what I'm doing. And also Greenlight Authority. They might have a great idea. That the Greenlight Authority comes from the creative group, not the other group. So now, obviously, there's big projects and budgets. I mean, it's it's not a military style operation with a chain of command. They're going to have conversations. Bob Chapek and Bob Iger will get involved. It's not as strenuous, but it is sort of the guidelines. So I think what we can learn from this is creating content, video content is still the priority. These layoffs are not about making less content. But there are things we're seeing that make us realize that radio, online, that's not as important to them anymore. And those businesses are challenged in their own right. I mean, terrestrial radio is basically a dead business. And so, and especially now with people commuting less, podcasts have even become less popular because you're not in your car. So a lot of ancillary businesses have been tossed aside. And once again, this is all kind of focused on on-demand world, with the exception of news and sports.
Okay. Now, under this model, do you anticipate that this type of question, Doobie is asking, the creative group can greenlight something without knowing where, if it will be distributed? Do you see that kind of broad greenlight? Not exactly.
I don't think they're going to create something that they don't think will have a home. I think they're going to have a conversation, but I think they might say, okay, we're going to make this movie, especially like when it comes to the stuff that we've seen move to Disney Plus. They might greenlight that and say, hey, we're gonna put it, you do what you want with it. Obviously, the bigger stuff like Star Wars and Marvel, that's all gonna have to be, that's all going to the highest levels. So it's not like they said, hey, surprise, here's the 12 shows we made for you. But they, it's more about the lower end stuff of the spectrum, where they may say, hey, what do you think? And as I said, it's gonna be a conversation. Whereas, they're gonna say we need 15 shows for Disney Plus. DMED won't have much. They might say, hey, we'd like something for the families. And I think the parks analogy is helpful here. Disney Parks might say, hey, you know what? We built 3 roller coasters in this park. We need something like Toy Story Land to bring families in. Oh, okay, let's make this. Now, they're not in, so they will make something, but that fits their need, but they're not going to necessarily say, we need a Monsters Inc. ride. Right. And it's all about having those conversations. But then obviously the bigger stuff, like they're not going to decide, okay, Marvel Studios is going to make an Ant-Man and Hulk movie. They're going to tell, Marvel Studios are going to make what Marvel Studios are going to make.
Right. Okay.
So
very different.
So if we look at the layoffs, as we kind of glanced upon it, there's no need to have 2 sets of creative executives working on a show. So a lot of creative executives that were at the network find themselves out of work because the studio will just take care of it. There is no network creative anymore. We talked about radio and online being de-emphasized. If you're following ESPN, you've seen a lot of writers and radio producers and things like that be lost, as well as there's, by putting distribution under one group instead of having ESPN's technology team and ABC's technology team, they will become, one. It's not going to be this, half of it. It's going to be probably, 1 2/3 or whatever it ends up being, but there's going to be some redundancies there. And so, things like ESPN.com and Touchstone Television is just a brand that just has no place, because the studios used to have a TV group and then a streaming group, right? And the streaming group was like cheaper. It was like the basic cable group. But now it's just all, it doesn't matter where it goes. So if we're taking a deep dive into some of the, what has happened, about what it means, Radio Disney closing. So Radio Disney fell under what used to be called Disney Channel. Gary Marsh, who runs Disney Channel is not a business group anymore, right? It's just a network. Now it's Disney branded television. So Disney Channel now oversees all Disney specials and shows that appear across anything. So if you're watching The Wonderful World of Disney on ABC, or you're watching a Disney Plus TV show that's Disney branded, that's all going to fall under Gary Marsh now. What distribution they had, Disney falls under Cream's group, but Radio Disney was kind of odd man out. And because of sort of the death of radio that we kind of glanced on earlier, there wasn't a lot of need for them because they kind of existed to promote the Disney ecosystem.
Yes.
But, radio has gone on demand, and also the Radio Disney as a brand where they would promote music. There's just not music events right now. And so it just didn't make sense when you're looking to kind of slim down for Radio Disney Country to exist. They've been dying a slow death for years. ABC had a radio group. Bob Chapek, in sort of his wisdom, kind of sold that off, and then they went bankrupt. And then they kept ESPN Radio and Radio Disney. Then they sold all the Radio Disney channels because they had struggles getting advertising, local advertising. And then now it's just sort of been dying a slow, miserable death.
To the point, Justin comes in and says, I honestly forgot Radio Disney still existed. I thought it shut down a couple of years ago.
Yeah, if you go to the Radio Disney press site, I was like, oh, they put up a press release recently. And I go like, oh, no, it's November 19th, 2019. So, it's just not been a focused group. I know when you're probably working there, you think you're doing a job and you're kind of flying under the radar. But, and they do stuff on YouTube and Instagram to kind of build that Disney music brand. But it's just not, not saying they have no value, but just wasn't going to be where they wanted to invest their money.
Well, it's like you were saying, it's a very different kind of music is a very different ecosystem than it had been in previous years. If you had that Disney Channel special, in order to really get those albums playtime, you needed a place like this in order to share it. Now, you've got, your streaming, right? It'll pop up in people's playlists or that type of way is how you would get people to discover, the next High School Musical soundtrack kind of thing.
Right. And kids, adapt to changing entertainment delivery faster than adults. And Disney is getting a bit of a telegraphing of where the future's going here because, terrestrial radio is dead. Streaming radio. I mean, who even needs Sirius XM right now when you can play whatever you want in, whether you have Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, pick your poison. But, so, and I gotta say, I have fond memories of Radio Disney. Remember when it launched when I was 16 and getting in my car because for some reason only my car could get Radio Disney. I couldn't get in the house. And so listening to it, when I drove across the country, I tried to find every Radio Disney station I could. But, it ran a long time, quarter century. But, things come and things go, unfortunately.
Oh.
So this one's interesting to me because it shows the other side of it. So Dan Silver was in charge of unscripted for Disney Plus, and he's leaving to go to Netflix.
Off the top of your head, Ben, can you give us a couple of products that, when you say unscripted Disney Plus, what?
Well, so Pick of the Litter, It's a Dog's Life, Bill Farmer, The Imagineering Story, Earth to Ned probably fell under this, even though it's quasi-scripted. All the stuff on Disney Plus where you don't go, oh, I can see who made that. So basically series, for the most part. I can't think of a film they might have done, but not National Geographic stuff that would fall under National Geographic, but the Marvel 616 would probably fall under him too.
Oh, wow.
So Disney Plus, as we talked about, they're not going to be making content. They're just a delivery system. So Gary Marsh is now overseeing all the unscripted content for Disney Plus as well from the Disney Channel side. Or what used to be called Disney Channel side. So they're giving up something, but they're also getting something, which is full control of the Disney Plus series slate, under Disney branded content. I've seen him speak. He was very passionate about the brand, loved True Life Adventures and Peoples and Places, and sort of the old school Disney documentaries. And we had some amazing things for Disney fans, such as obviously Imagineering Story. And, It's a Dog's Life with Bill Farmer and Prop Culture. I don't know what this means for those shows. Those, doesn't mean all those shows are canceled or done or they're not going to do it. We just don't know yet. And we'll probably know more soon, even in a matter of days. So this is another one that's not Disney branded, but I think it kind of shows where they're headed with Dan Le Batard leaving ESPN. And can you explain Dan Le Batard? I'm a fan, but I feel like having a fan explain it makes much more sense.
Well, he's a Miami-based sports journalist. He's truly a sports writer. I mean, that's where his start was. And he came to ESPN, I believe, through radio. And he has been a bit of a maverick when it comes to his ESPN career. I actually learned about him through Deadspin when he auctioned off and then lost his Baseball Hall of Fame vote. Was how I discovered him. But I fell in love with the Le Batard show when we moved out here to California, and the way that the ESPN lineup was at that time, you had Mike, as I remember, you had Mike and Mike in the morning, so you had a very casual coffee top introduction to sports. Then you had Russillo. I think there was somebody after them, but I remember there being Russillo, and at times it was SVP, and then it eventually became with someone with Danny Cannell, and then eventually became Ryan. But the way the day would work was you would have kind of the heavy sports news and stuff, and then the Le Batard show would come on. And by then, most of the stories had been regurgitated enough through the day that I didn't need another analysis of it. And so their lighthearted take on sports, in essence, an entertainment show with its sports on the side, was highly appealing. And he is the son of Cuban exiles. His dad is a sidekick of his on his other show that they've done at ESPN called Highly Questionable. And the show itself is just a very it's a team-oriented show, a lot of camaraderie. The behind-the-scenes guys are just as much a part of the show as Dan and his co-host John Stu Gottswiener is. And so they have an incredibly passionate fan base. And yeah, it's like I say, lighthearted, fun. There you go.
Yeah, and the key there is tangential to sports, I think.
Yeah, see, this is a fan shirt, right? Marching band to nowhere. This is part of the what you call yourself when you follow along with these guys.
So, as we talked about, radio has been challenged, and during the John Skipper era of ESPN, in order to fill time in the day when there's no sports, they got a bunch of sports journalists and made shows around them. PTI being, the first, I think, of any note, and First Take with various hosts and Highly Questionable.
I would say Around the Horn after PTI
Right,
had Around the Horn. Totally.
Around the Horn was like their minor league. They would have 4 people there, and then they would promote you from there to your own show. And even these shows were launching even recently with High Noon, and I think even Get Up, their morning show, was kind of designed to be bred out of this, but has transitioned to more of a traditional, quasi-traditional ESPN show. But the reason I bring this up is they are not thinking of ESPN as a linear offering anymore. They're also not thinking of ESPN as the big sports brand that anything sports has to fall under ESPN. They're not trying to be the leader in sports journalism in terms of written word anymore. Athletic has come in, and I don't think ESPN has any desire to compete, mainly because the economics of that are not at the scale that Disney is used to. And so they're trying to bolster their ESPN Plus offering. So their radio simulcasts are moving to ESPN Plus. Many of their online articles are moving to ESPN Plus, trying to build that out. But when it comes down to ESPN as a whole, they're really going to be focused more on games, rights and games, because now that the app is the home of ESPN, and ESPN Plus and other offerings are going to become the key to ESPN's growth, it's not about, okay, we need to make sure we have something on Tuesday, December 3rd for ESPN, ESPN2, and you. They could have 14 games that night and put it all on an app. They essentially want it to be like ESPN to be the iTunes of sports. You go there and you'll see most sports. Now, obviously, they're not going to have the rights to everything, but they want to. They would love to have more rights. So you've heard talk of NFL adding additional NFL rights, even trying to go after the Sunday ticket rights. You've heard NHL trying to add them in, so they have the 4 main sports again. They already have MLS. They really want to move away from trying to look at ESPN as filling a schedule. So when you have someone like Dan Le Batard, who is, I don't want to say confrontational because that might be a little harsh, but, on the side there from what the straight ESPN brand is that they want, paying him $3 million a year might not be as attractive when you're trying to save every dollar you can to get NFL rights. And so you're going to see a lot more Sports Center type stuff. You're going to see a lot more, I don't want to say hard news, but, buffer shows like pre-shows, post-shows. You may even see a return of things like Baseball Tonight, The Jump is a brand that they're very passionate about because it's more of, it's less personality driven and more just talking basketball every day. NFL Live. There was a time when they were trying to build out their podcast business. And I think, they're still going to make podcasts, but it's not as lucrative as, so it's not the thing they're going to be putting in a lot of investment into. So you're not going to have podcast talent. You may have someone who is on NFL Live who has a podcast kind of for fun, but having a podcast network of everything under the sun is not their goal. This is very much almost taking ESPN back 20 years when it was a game of something and SportsCenter. The executives that are remained are the ones that kind of came from that cloth. There were sort of two camps there. There was a sort of 30 for 30 and embrace debate crew. And then there was the more, SportsCenter and Monday Night Football group. And the SportsCenter Monday Night Football group won the war. And Dan Le Batard is just an example of it.
These moves are making me very, very sad because I envisioned the way that ESPN was going to transition in kind of this modern consumer era was going to be instead of Monday Night Football having this Monday night team that I knew on Monday nights I was going to watch whoever the duo was they put in the booth that year, that I was going to be able to do more of like what we saw with the college football where you could have like, I can watch the stream with these personalities that I enjoy, or this one over here with these guys. I could watch the coach's room, which is going to be, very studied and focused. Or I could watch Dan Le Batard where Chris Cody is juggling oranges during halftime.
Right. And I think you will still get the coach's room, like detail, right. Still that, but you're probably not going to get the Dan Le Batard room anymore. Or
that makes me I will admit that I am sad to see ESPN moving more away from a lot of what brought me in, because I didn't watch ESPN very much when it was kind of that straight sports journalism. It was the shows that had that camaraderie and kind of the feeling like I was eavesdropping on my friends chatting about sports that drew me into ESPN. But things change, and right now you look at the top 4 podcasts and 3 of them are not ESPN. The 4th is, and that's the Dan Le Batard show. So
yeah, and I think Dan Le Batard will find a place. It's just that he won't have to pay the ESPN overhead on it.
Right.
And there's that kind of thing where it's like, why the cost of getting what ESPN is going to be willing to pay for opinion is not going to be significant anymore.
Well, and they all seem to be much more willing to work with each other a bit more too. It used to be kind of once you left ESPN, you become he who shall not be named. And it's kind of like what you're saying. Now that they're beginning to be more of kind of that sports brand, well, they're willing to have, Bill Simmons come back to talk, even though, he's got the ringer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see it's not going to be ESPN trying to dominate all sports talk anymore. And I think, when they say amicable, I think to a point it is. Obviously, if someone's paying you $3 million a year and they say they don't want to anymore, there's only so you're going to have a little bit of a grudge. But ESPN's headed in a different way, and then they can. It's not that these people are not going to have distribution anymore.
Well, maybe some other time I can go into my long storied history of how the writing's been on the wall as a Le Batard fan, kind of watching that relationship with ESPN slowly erode. I can point to various moments in time where I've wondered exactly how long was I going to be hearing Dan and crew on ESPN's networks.
So those are sort of the big 4 headlines. I think it's important to realize that COVID-19 played a role in this, but it just made things happen faster. Theatrical was the idea is that they would keep their legacy business and then kind of take the money from that and invest in Disney Plus. Well, the legacy businesses just got kicked on their patoot. With ESPN not having sports and the parks not being able to pay for all this, it became a challenge. So, Alex, I'm sorry, Doobie wants to know about ESPN the Ocho. I think the Ocho is the kind of stuff that will stay when there's a dead, because they can just get it. And I think you're probably going to see more. I mean, look at ESPN Plus. A lot of those sports that are on there are things that were on ESPN in the early days, like Australian rules football. Yeah, so I think it's going to be that because that's not personality driven. They're going to do stunts. There's going to be dog days on ESPN. It's just not going to be Dan Le Batard's dog days of ESPN. And they still have personalities. They're just going to be paid less. So you're going to still have Mike Golick Jr. and people like that.
Do you think they'll lean more into the esports empire, or do you think because they keep dipping their toe in there and then they seem to run away?
They fired everyone on that group.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was some hope that dipping their toe in and then working with Disney XD to kind of share that. Disney XD kind of became it all kind of came out of the Maker Studios thing. But esports are a challenge just because the game owners really control it. And once again, you're not talking about a huge ESPN needs stuff that has scale and is affordable at that, right? Do I think there's room for the Stephen A types? I think there's room for Stephen A, but Stephen A needs to realize that his value to ESPN is not what it once was. So they will still sign people. They will still have First Take, but how much is those people going to get paid? And I think that's why I think Stephen A is smart enough to realize that, because he's even trying to get on more, like at Sports Center with Stephen A. Smith. And I don't, moving less away from Stephen A as a brand versus Stephen A as a personality in ESPN. Like Scott Van Pelt, I don't think he's going away either because he's hosting Sports Center. He's, there's going to be people there, but they're going to be people that are, and they're just going to be fewer of them because they don't, I used to think it was funny how everyone's so concerned about ESPN between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. when no one's actually watching ESPN. Like we talked all about this, all the drama, and then you're like, but Monday Night Football is where people are watching it. Like we don't talk about that as much. We don't talk about the games as much, and I think they realize that they need to put, it's more important to get a great commentator for Monday Night Football than it is to get Dan Le Batard. And it's more important to have Monday Night Football than it is to have Dan Le Batard.
Yeah, thank you.
But so once again, this was inevitable, and the parks aren't making any money to speak of. So they suspended their dividend, and they want to invest. Not investing in Disney Plus is not an option. So they got to streamline somewhere because they need the money. So here's what does the future look like? We'll know more on December 10th, Thursday, when they do their presentation, which, just to get everyone prepared, it is about the 4 streaming services: Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Star. It is not about the parks. It is also not about some Hulu and Disney Plus combination that is outside the Disney bundle. It is about those 4 services. As we said, ESPN is going to seek out more sports rights. ABC, what does that look like in a nonlinear world? If Disney Channel is signaling that people are not going to watch network television anymore or feel the need to watch a network, does Disney sell ABC? That's not off the table. But also, you're probably going to see more sports on ABC. You're also probably going to see more news on ABC. And you're going to see game shows and the stuff that they found, as well as like select marquee titles as a way to kind of promote their Hulu run. FXX has a show called Dave. Nobody watched on FXX. Like nobody. Like a baseball stadium watched it on FXX. But when it got to Hulu, it became very popular. So it's really about sort of maybe highlighting the products that are on streaming services. Freeform. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Freeform. They're interesting because a lot of their programming is stunt programming, which, as we talked about, the Freeform group no longer programs Freeform. So what are they doing? What's their role? What's their point in making? Why do they exist? And they just got a new head of Freeform, Tara Duncan. So I don't think they're going to want to, move her right away. So there's talk about her like developing diverse content and things like that. But once again, it could be on Freeform, it could be on Hulu, it could be on Disney Plus. It's not, they're platform agnostic. So
when you say Freeform does stunt, this is the channel. I mean, they pretty much are known for their 25 days of Christmas, however many days.
So you have October through December. You have 31 nights of Halloween, then countdown to Christmas, then kickoff to Christmas, then like counting down to New Year's, and then in January they'll start showing original content again. And you see me in October when Hocus Pocus isn't on, and I'll give you $1, or Christmas when it's not a Santa Claus or Home Alone movie. But it seems to do well for them, but their future is very much in doubt. Not that they might. I'm not saying they're going to not exist, but I don't know how they're going to exist, in what form.
So are you saying that I shouldn't expect series like Pretty Little Liars to be birthed out of Freeform?
It might be, but I don't know where it's going to be shown.
Okay.
Is it going to be on Freeform? Is it going to be on I think they want, the struggle that they're having right now is they don't have a lot of hit shows that could make them a brand. Right now, there's not a lot of brand in Freeform. And I think, they're trying this, a little forward branding. And they have had Freeform summits. I'm not sure how successful it's been for them, because it's hard to judge because you're facing the headwinds of linear television as it is. But if their goal is to make that sort of young adult programming for Hulu and Freeform, then they might have a success. But if it's just to air it on Freeform, that's not going to work.
So will it have a different kind of? Because I feel like right now, if I see something, if I see Pretty Little Liars, that's the only series that comes to mind when I think of Freeform. It has like a title card that would say Freeform on it. Yeah. So do you think that will still be a thing, or do you think it might be Hulu, but then it also appears on Freeform?
No, I think it would be Freeform makes it. Freeform's the studio. Freeform's the Marvel or Star Wars, but maybe it's on Freeform. Maybe it's on Hulu, like FX on Hulu. Gotcha. You sometimes have to pay attention to what's an FX on Hulu show and what's an FX show that then airs on Hulu. Same thing with The Undefeated. The Undefeated, you're probably going to see a lot more on Hulu as well as ABC. They're kind of making that a sort of a sub brand, kind of. Okay. And then we'll know more about the future on December 10th when they do their Investor Day.
Speaking of December 10th, Doobie wants to know, because there's headlines all over the place suggesting this or hinting at this or whatnot. What are your thoughts on
They're not merged. First of all, they can't merge because Disney doesn't own all of Hulu. I mean, I guess they could, but it would be very complicated. They already have the Disney bundle, which is essentially the same thing. If you go to DisneyPlus.com, it's sign up for the Disney bundle, and then little tiny writing. If you only want to sign up for Disney Plus, click here. And I know Bob Chapek loves Hulu Plus Live TV. And so, incorporating Disney Plus. Now, I mean, when we say merging, I don't even know what that means, but it's not going to be, you can't get Disney Plus on its own. I don't see that happening. Maybe eventually. I'm not saying 10 years down the line or even 5 years down the line, but in the next year or two, no.
Not enough benefit to that, I guess.
Well, they want to make Disney Plus accessible. So the more you add, if you start having Hulu, then you got to raise the price. And then Disney Plus doesn't become accessible. And then, I think they want everyone who has Hulu to have Disney Plus. And I think that's why they push the Disney bundle. It's like, hey, for only so many dollars more, you get ESPN Plus, because they want to grow those numbers. And they have. I mean, Hulu and ESPN Plus, once they started the Disney bundle and sort of really started pushing it, those subscriber numbers have gone way up because it's just, it's an add-on. And you're probably going to stop seeing, Premier Access, pay-per-view, additional options. You're probably going to see a lot more of that.
Okay.
I mean, it's known that Premier Access has a future. Bob Chapek has said so. We don't know what that looks like, but it might. It's going to be. They're going to try and keep it a la carte at least for a little bit. But
great.
People read headlines all that. This is like the fourth time in a week where I've had like someone read a headline that It shows they have no idea what's going on.
I'm glad that Disney Plus is kind of staying within its own little nugget or morsel, because I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Hulu and Hulu Live. I don't enjoy that interface. So I'm glad that doesn't have to be my primary TV streaming. So
and Hulu Live is one thing, but Hulu On Demand is now on the Disney Plus backbone.
Okay.
It's a different interface, but you can see where it's similar. So they redid their interface. I want to say a year ago, but that is obviously way too long ago. Maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and made it more Disney Plus-y. Live TV is still different. I mean, they changed their interface too, but it's obviously Disney Plus doesn't have live TV component. Right. But and you're seeing that what's happening to Disney channels across the country, across the globe, are shutting down. Disney makes a lot of money off of Disney channels in the United States, but will they keep that? What programming will be there? And we came from a time when ESPN or Disney Channel or ABC would have an idea, right, and they would put it on their network, and so you had a lot of stuff, probably more than you needed to justify having that network. Mm-hmm. Whereas now they're going to probably there's going to be less. There will still be some. There will still be DComs. There'll still be series. But now they can say, okay, you know what? I got 4 series on Disney Channel. The next 5 are going to go on Disney Plus. And, right. It's a little clunky right now because you have the Disney Now app and the Disney Plus app. And sometimes it's hard to remember where one thing is versus the other. But if you look at the ESPN app, there's no difference, right? Like if you see a game, it's hard to tell what network you're even watching. If you have an ESPN Plus subscription, you'll see it. But then if you have a cable provider, you get different game. And if you have both, you get everything. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, they don't have the same need to kind of make sure that they have an 8 o'clock. Oh, we've got to have this 8 o'clock slot because we have to compete against X, Y, and Z. It's just that's not the way that we're approaching television as much anymore. I understand.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. One of the divisions that got hit the least with the layoffs was ABC News, mm-hmm. because they've seen great growth of their ABC News Live product, which is basically a 24-hour news channel, except without the debate. It's designed to be straight news, a lot more just live coverage, and there's no opinion on there, so to speak, unless they're interviewing a congressman or something.
Right.
And they found originally it was gonna be more of a, okay, we're gonna have a show for here, and we're gonna have a show here and here. But in the climate, people want to see the live event unfiltered because unfortunately a lot of the sort of traditional outlets put on a lot of filters. Mm-hmm. And they've seen it's the number 1 streaming news site, news video offering. And you're probably going to see them play a bigger role. That's why that's free. Even though it's a channel, it's free to all Hulu subscribers as well. So you don't have to have their live TV option. It's free to everyone too, because you can go to abcnews.com/live. But
right,
it's ad supported, and I think it's saving ABC News in terms of personnel.
Oh, okay.
It's cool too because sometimes they'll show more Disney events than sometimes you'll pop in and they'll show the opening. They showed the opening Galaxy's Edge there, so it's definitely all in the family. But,
very nice.
So that's it.
There we go. So now everybody knows what happened, who went where, and what's going on.
So I can stop sharing this.
Can you? Go. Do you know how?
And we'll look at the coming week. So on LP, some highlights. Tomorrow you'll be with Mike talking Mando Monday, and that was a doozy of an episode this week. So
I am so excited. I've been dying to talk about this. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about that, and whatever new merchandise comes out that will feature the excitement of that episode. I'm also eager to see what T-shirts and whatnot are birthed out of that excitement. I'm too hesitant. I'm a little bit hesitant to spoil it here. See, I know people who tune into Mando Monday are fully, expecting to be completely spoiled on Friday's episode, but I'm a little hesitant to kind of say too much here, but we'll see. So, apparently Jeffrey believes that Grogu will run Hulu. And
that works.
And Juby is hoping that Grogu will. I don't know why they both spelled it with a K, not Grogu. Will be at the investors conference, but both of them.
And Grogu is green.
Yep. What I think is fun is you can now type, if you go to if you want Baby Yoda merchandise, what we had been calling Baby Yoda merchandise, at the Disney Shop Disney website, you can type in Grogu now and it'll pop up.
Did you see what Shop Disney tweeted?
Oh no! What did they?
The day the episode aired, someone said, "How come I can't type Grogu?" And they tweeted something like "spoilers."
Oh, nice!
I think it was like a couple days later, it became okay.
Okay, very, very, very nice. Yeah. Oh, also tomorrow in the morning, Jeremiah at 11 o'clock, Jeremiah will be somewhere in Walt Disney World, and then in the afternoon, we will have Disney Parks Talk Live. Yeah, I'm waiting for it to scroll by. Okay, yeah. 4 p.m. Disney Parks Talks Live, and at 7:30 we're gonna have the movie club talking about the Disney Plus film Godmother. Doobie and I enjoyed that on Friday. I think he may be part of the chit chat for that. We'll see. I don't remember if he signed up for it or not. So yeah, lots of fun as always here at Laughing Place.
And then Wednesday, we have full coverage of the Disney Plus original film Safety, which is about a Clemson player who sort of adopts his younger brother under challenging circumstances. I'm disappointed, though, because I watched the Clemson game on ABC, expecting full-on Disney-style synergy, and all I got was one ad.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's disappointing.
And then join us Thursday for full, complete Investor Day coverage. It's going to be nuts. I'm tired already.
I'm very excited to see kind of this one. I feel like this is the coming out party for Bob Chapek that we've been waiting for, right? Because he kind of stepped into the role and then COVID arrived and kind of put everything in this weird jello limbo state.
Which happened like 48 hours after the shareholder meeting. So, I mean, he was at the shareholder meeting. But you felt like he never really got to, where, they announced things like Avengers Campus opening July 17th. And,
as Juby says, Laughing Place was created way back in 1999 for that moment.
I gotta say, I'm looking forward. I mean, we might as well go into our panel picks, and then I can talk about my love of the Investor Day. So my highlight from last week, 2 fantastic episodes of The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse on Disney Plus. I thought they were both hilarious. The Disco episode, which I'm sure has a name other than Disco episode, and the Big Bad Wolf episode, which I believe is called Big Good Wolf. Both excellent chef kiss kind of shows.
Cool. I haven't yet seen them, so I'm excited. I'm glad they were so popular with you.
What was your highlight from last week?
Oh, please. My highlight from last week. Okay, spoilers. If you didn't see The Mandalorian, turn me off now because I'm going full spoil from Friday night's episode. Okay. When we finally got to see the magnificence that is Boba Fett in one-on-one combat or 1-on-20 combat. It was everything that I'm sure my childhood pals wanted out of the Boba Fett who had that ignominious death instead. So yeah, exactly. This is what he should have always been to us all these years. So it's very exciting.
So next week, what I'm most looking forward to, Investor Day. And here's why. First of all, I love a good Investor Day. But it's so nice to have something that's forward-looking this year. That's like, here's what to get excited about. And I know the parks business is, still challenged. I mean, even more so today than it was a week ago. But, by kind of bringing it up just as a media day for 4 hours, it'll get me excited about something. We've lost so many of those opportunities. We didn't have Destination D this year. We have Comic-Con. We've everything we were looking forward to in 2020 has been pushed. And so I'm just looking forward. If you look back to the last one where we learned about Disney Plus and we're getting so excited, I'm excited, and which happened to be on the eve of Star Wars Celebration. You know, I need a moment like that this year where I can say, "Hey, here's why we should get excited for 2021."
Yes, it will, and this can't go away, really. You know what I mean? This is one of those things where my TV is in my house. I can watch my TV. My computer is here. I can watch my computer. So it's very exciting to have this kind of. I feel like this is not going to have that kind of like weird cloud of uncertainty over it. This will be a true forward thinking.
Right, and I mean, because all this has been decided after COVID. Mm-hmm. So this isn't like, hey, I mean, even IAPA, right? Like, it's what we want to do. Eventually, we'll do it. Whereas this is designed for COVID. COVID world is instigating this, and so we will be prepared. And not saying everything they say will happen, but it's going to be a day where we're finally going to get, now that production is back to a degree, get an idea of what Disney is excited for in the coming years, particularly around the 4 services. Now, I just want to warn everybody, this is not a fan event, it's an investor event. So the ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Star, which you may not care about as much as Disney Plus, will be talked about, and we'll get their time in the sun. It's not 4 hours of Disney Plus, but we will find out what's coming Disney Plus as well as those other services and where they're thinking of taking them.
And okay, so you said Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN, and Star. Can you just, for people who may not be totally familiar, before we wrap up, I should probably get you just kind of let them know what's Star, just so they,
So Star is, well, it's a brand that has been around, that came as part of the Fox acquisition, where it's a streaming service in India, as well as, I think some other sort of smaller markets. But Disney is taking that brand and making it their general entertainment service for international. So think of it as like an international Hulu, but just Disney stuff. And I mean, Disney company stuff. So not so much of the, Hulu here, because of just the way it grew out, has a lot of, network stuff and licensed movies and things like that. Whereas this is going to be basically your ABC, Freeform, all that stuff that doesn't fit on Disney Plus will have. So it'll be Disney Plus Star or Disney Plus Hotstar if you're in India. I guess that's basically what it is, which kind of goes into why Disney Plus isn't merging with Hulu, because if they were, they wouldn't be launching a 4th service to be the Hulu internationally.
Right. Yeah, okay, I see.
I mean, I'm trying to find if I can even pull up the picture. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay. And he is not joking at how excited he is over this announcement. For those of you who are watching and going, really? This is a very exciting day coming up on December 10th. So we shall see what is ahead for us as Disney consumers. Because a lot of this content now is finding its way into even our other experiences as well. So, we've seen how The Mandalorian now is this entire merchandise franchise, right? Our Monday coverage, half of it is a Mandalorian product. I mean, look at what Baby Yoda did, flying off shelves and still dominating toy shelves all over the place. So it will be very interesting to see what is next.
Yeah, well, and for those that get upset when Disney looks at things in a franchise lens, you're not going to be happy. But Disney is obviously, with things like Mando Monday, going to be leaning into those things. Now, if you're a fan of Star Wars and a fan of Marvel and you want more of that stuff, you are going to get more of that stuff. And I think, I was kind of worried about Mando Monday because a lot of times those merchandise things don't quite pay off. And while they've had stronger weeks than others, I think it's been
I think it's done well, because I know as a consumer, I've really enjoyed kind of knowing that on Mondays is when I can look at brands that I like to see if they're offering any kind of Mandalorian content that day. Because, like, you know, the company behind this necklace, Rock Love, they had some Mandalorian content, and because of this kind of initiative by Disney, well, that content, arrived on Monday, and so they were preparing to share it on Monday, and we knew it was coming on Monday. So it was just like I say, I found it as a consumer to be a bit make things a bit easier. Go check out Tervis if you love those Tervis tumblers on Mondays, and you knew that the latest episode mug was going to be arriving by 1:00 in the afternoon. So, and Jeffrey, he says that he thought this was better than Force Fridays that they had a few years ago. So
yeah, I agree with you, Jeffrey. But
so it's been fun for Mike and I to browse the shelves of various. I say shelves, virtually. So Investor Day.
Okay, so was my screen on the whole time? Okay.
No.
Okay. So if you look at this logo for the Investor Day, you will see blue. That's Disney Plus. Green, Hulu. Orangey, Star. Yellow, ESPN Plus.
Oh, okay.
So they are there to talk about 4 streaming services. So much so it's in the logo.
That'll be fun. Which, by the way, they need more ESPN. They need more Disney Plus merchandise. By the way, they had a Disney Plus shirt that appeared for a little while, but then it went away.
Yeah, I know. I'm bummed I didn't get it.
And I didn't get one at the time, and I'm bummed because I would like one. So I almost bought the one that they had for that Plus anniversary that was like the Mandalorian, and then it had a Disney Plus logo in the corner because I was like, but I wear my hat all the time, but so. Maybe eventually they'll come back out with that kind of content merchandise again for us. So yeah.
So this is LP in depth, and you're going on vacation. So
yep. So I will be back soon, but not too soon.
So next week I have the challenge of going a deep dive into what has happened with the Investor Day with our densest member, Doobie. And so what we're going to do, we'll do a quick recap after the Investor Day just to talk about our initial thoughts. But when it comes down to a planned, organized thought process on it, we'll go a little bit more in depth next Sunday at a time to be determined. And let's just hope that they don't have any puns.
Oh, I know. It'll be or subtle foreshadowing that is later realized, and then you'll be okay. Otherwise, Doobie will be no help with that. So I guess I will see. That is what Doobie has been telling me all day. Doobie, my husband, by the way, for those of you who watch regularly.
So there was an article on Fool.com talking about 5 days in December investors should pay attention to, and it was the opening of the Grand Californian Hotel, Seoul, a couple of other things. They didn't include the Investor Day.
Oh,
it was literally.
I'm sorry.
And it made Kyle mad.
Oh, did it really? Kyle's our editorial director here. So.
He's like,
I can guarantee you that's a big, huge, bold letters on Kyle's calendar. So Fool.com should have made note of it too. Okay, well, I guess we will sign off. Thanks for joining us as we discuss the recent reorganizations that the Disney Company announced. And once again, December 10th is the big day around here, but we'll have lots of stuff to keep you entertained. Until then, I'll be back tomorrow with Mando Mondays at 1:00 at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Jeremiah will be somewhere at Walt Disney World. So if you enjoyed this, please, we appreciate that. Otherwise, make sure you just subscribe to the stream, and that way you'll find out what other Disney fun we are sharing here at Laughing Place. So until next time, be safe, take care, see y'all real soon.